so we're going to try something a little bit different today. Instead of using my computer like I normally do to make a video, I'm just going to show you on your calculator how to go through and plot a residual plot. So this is going with that worksheet that you should have just gotten, linear regression part 2. There is a PowerPoint that goes through this as well, but I know sometimes the PowerPoint probably isn't as clear on how to actually plot the residual plot. I don't think that's on there. So anyway, I'm just going to show you real quick how this works, and yeah, here you go. So I think the worksheet actually says let's re-examine the data from number 1. It says number 4, but I think it actually meant to say number 1. This is the Kalama children scenario. So I have already gone into my stat edit. So in my list, I have all of the data on the worksheet. So list 1, these are all the ages in months, and then these are all of their heights in centimeters. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and real quick refresher on how to plot the least squares regression line. So now that I've got everything in list 1, list 2, I'm going to go back to my home screen. I'm going to go to stat, calc, option 8. Okay, yes, I realize there are 2 options. We always go with option 8. Just do that one. Okay, so linear regression, X list, L1, Y list is now L2. There is nothing in my frequency, so you can leave that blank. And I want to store my regression equation. I always want to store this in Y1. So to do that, I'm going to click alpha, trace, Y1. Oop, there we go. Didn't mean to move that. There we go. I have my iPad very precariously balanced, but you know what? We're making this work. Okay, so X1, Y1, store regression equation. If for some reason you want to store these in other places, remember you can just click second, and then here are the other options, L1, L2, L3, L4, L5. Wherever you have it stored, that's what you're going to use. So again, if you needed to figure out how did I get this Y1, alpha, trace, Y1. If you have an old calculator, it's probably not going to do that for you as well. Oops, here we go. That one more time. It's not going to have the same capability, like you're not going to have the alpha option, but just use one of my calculators. So that's why I'm demonstrating it today on this one. Okay, so I'm going to go to calculate. And here we go. Here's my regression equation. Now, you might notice that I'm missing some stuff here. And if you have that problem, this is because your calculator has recently been cleared, and so it's gone back to default settings. And so you need to go back in and turn on your diagnostics. So to do that, and what I mean is there's no R or R squared. So go to mode, arrow down to diagnostics, stat diagnostics. Always make sure they are turned on, okay? So then I can rerun my linear regression here, and boom, there's R squared and R like I would like, okay? So this is my linear regression based on the information from the ages in months versus height in centimeters. So again, to plot this, I've got go to my Y1. They've already put it in my Y equals. If I wanted to plot this, I'm going to turn on plot 1. I actually don't know how the plot is set up. So let's see, L1. Okay, so it's already on scatter plot L1, L2. I'm going to go to zoom 9 for a nice pretty window. And yeah, this makes sense. This should match what you see on the PowerPoint, okay? But you'll notice on the PowerPoint they have another graph and on your worksheet that's got this horizontal line, and you're like, wait, what is the horizontal line? Okay, the horizontal line is called the residual plot. And if you recall from when we first learned how to do the least squares regression line, basically this line right here is all of your predictions for what we think the predicted height would be for a given age. Okay, and some of our points are above and below. The difference between the predicted value and the actual value, that distance right there is called the residual. Okay, and at the top of your paper it even says residual is equal to your observed Y minus your predicted Y. So sometimes it's going to be a positive number, sometimes it's going to be a negative number, depending on if your actual value is above or below. So like this dot right here is going to have a positive residual, but this dot right here is going to have a negative residual because it is below what is predicted. It's below this line. So what I can do is I can create a scatter plot of just my residual values. So to do that, you're going to go back to stat. Okay, go back to edit, and then you have list 1, list 2, go up to list 3. Okay, you want this to be highlighted on list 3. And then you're going to go second, stat. Do you see where it says residual right here? Okay, we want residual, and then you're going to hit enter. Now, this has already graphed all of the residuals, already calculated all the residuals for you, okay? I will warn you, this will only work if you have your equation, your regression equation stored in Y1. If for some reason you forgot to do that, when you go over to try to, when you arrow up here and you go to second stat to do this, this resid option won't even be there, okay? So you have to make sure that your equation, your regression equation has been stored in Y1. Otherwise, it will not work, okay? So real quick, I'm gonna set this back up again. So I'm gonna pretend for a second that I didn't just do that, clear, okay. So, oh, I need to do my regression, I need to do my residual plot again. Let's see, okay, I'm good here. I've got my residual plot, or my least squares regression line in Y1, so good. So I'm gonna go to Stat, Edit, arrow up to where L3 is highlighted, like this right here, okay? Then click Second, Stat. You see above Stat it says List, so I want second list, and then I want option 7, which is my residual, okay? And so now my calculator automatically calculated all those residuals for me. If you wanted to do them all by hand, you are more than welcome to using the formula. I don't recommend it, but you know, hey, to each their own, okay? So now I need to plot my residuals for every given X value. So these are my X values and these are my residual values. So I'm gonna replot my scatter plot, but now I need to modify it to where I'm using these as my X values and these as my Y values. I'm gonna go to my Y equals, okay? Actually, I'm gonna go to second stat plot. I'm gonna modify plot 1. Instead of using L1 and L2, now I'm gonna use L1 and L3. To do that, I clicked second and 3. That gives me L3, okay? And then I'm just gonna hit zoom 9 like normal, zoom 9, and boom, there's your this is your residual plot, okay? Now you have this horizontal line right here, okay, which is what we want. You have the horizontal line, and these are all of the points. Essentially, the horizontal line is your regression line, but on the x-axis. And all of these values are how far above and below all of your actual values compared to your predicted value, okay? So that is how you plot a residual plot, okay? The rest of this worksheet falls in line, pretty straightforward, but if you are ever wondering how they got this plot, that is how they did it, okay? Again, let's do a real quick recap, okay? So you've got everything, let's pretend that wasn't there. Okay, so I typed in all of my data in list 1 into list 2. And then I'm gonna do go back to my home screen, I'm gonna do my regression equation. So calc 8, list 1, list 2, store it into Y1, so alpha trace Y1, make sure it's stored there. Done, got all my information. My regression equation is in Y1, excellent, okay. So stat, edit, I arrow up to L3, second list, my residual is option 7. There's my residuals, but now to actually plot those, I gotta go second, stat plot. I want L1 and L3, that's already done for me, perfect. And then zoom 9, and there you go. It makes a nice, pretty graph-friendly window for you, okay? So that is how you plot that. We always want to look for a nice, pretty random scatter. There is not a pattern here that I can find in any way. So that means the least squares regression line that we came up with is a good fit for the data. There's a couple other examples that you're going to see where your residual plot might make a distinct pattern, like if there's a distinct parabola, or if it's like really widely scattered but then gets really narrow. If there's any form of pattern whatsoever, then the least squares regression line or a linear model to fit the data is not a good fit. And what we are trying to focus on is things where a line is a good fit for the data. So this is a perfect residual plot. All of the points are randomly scattered, which tells me that the least squares regression line is a good fit for the data. If you have any questions on this, as per usual, check your textbook. They also have this laid out for you, how to do this on the TI 84 pluses, or if you have any other calculators, I think they have that written out as well. But the book is a great resource. Prof. Rob Bob and Khan Academy, all of them can also explain to you guys a little bit more about residual plots and all that good stuff. I hope that helped. Have a good one.